And welcome back to Look Who's Cooking. My name is Jeremy Edwards, and today we're going to have a date night appropriate meal, Tuscan chicken. The ingredients we're going to need today are 3 large chicken breasts. If you have medium or small, it's fine. You can still manage to work with that. You need a 1/2 cup of sun-dried tomatoes, sliced and preferably in olive oil. We have about a 1/2 cup of sliced mozzarella cheese. If you can't find it sliced, if you find it shredded, it's totally fine. As long as you have an appropriate amount, 1/2 cup, 1/4 cup, depending on how much cheese you like in your chicken. We have 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil that we divided because we're going to apply that for 2 different applications for this recipe. We also have 3 tablespoons of Italian seasoning that we also have divided in 2 separate bowls because we're going to apply that for 2 separate applications for this recipe as well. Salt and pepper for seasoning. We also have onion powder as well. Parmesan cheese, grated or shredded, whatever you have is fine as well. We also have about a 1/2 cup of heavy cream and a 1/4 cup of chicken broth. Now we're going to get started. First thing we need to do is prepare our chicken. So I'm going to pull out my chicken. I have a large amount of it in a bag, so I'm just going to pull that out now. As you can see, I do have a smaller chicken breast, which this is a 4-ounce double load, but if you have a 7-ounce or even anything larger than that, that's totally fine. If you're going to use a large chicken breast, you want to cut a pocket into it. And this right here, I'll demonstrate how to do that with the small chicken breast so you can see what it is that you need to do if you have a larger chicken breast. So when you have your knife, you want to make sure your knife is sharpened. So let's go ahead and get that sharpened right away. So there's just a couple strokes, 15 degrees going down the sharpening steel. Once you do that, I'm just going to cut this breast in half. And alongside the chicken, on the longer end, you just want to have the blade just glide through. Not applying too much pressure, but enough pressure where you can feel the knife going through the flesh. You want to place your hand firmly on the top of it and then just take the blade and just go alongside. Not going through all the way, but just enough where you're going through the center of the meat. And here you see, you have your pocket. This is where you're going to put your filling. But since now I have a 4-ounce double load, this is where I can cheat a little bit, where I can just take it and just simply fold it over. Now you have an 8-ounce breast instead of 2 4-ounce breasts. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to get my chicken all together, and I'm going to do all of my chicken at the same time. I'm going to do about 4 of them because I have a large amount of people that I need to feed after this is over. I'm going to take my breast, and what you want to do, just go over the breast looking for any cartilage or any skin that you don't want, and just trim that off. You want to take those little pieces of skin off. Sometimes you'll find cartilage, even bone, so you want to be careful with that as well. Just gently going over the chicken, making sure that you have everything that you don't want a part of your meal discarded. And this is a fairly simple meal. Simple ingredients, simple technique, but the flavor is going to be very good, and whoever it is that you're preparing this for is going to be very pleased. So let's go ahead and get this last little bit of chicken skin off. Okay. Now, since we've done that, what I like to do is season my chicken. So I'm going to season both the inside and the outside of the chicken, and simply season it with some salt and pepper. Kosher salt and cracked black pepper is what I'm using. If you have the table salt or the table grind pepper, that's totally fine as well. Seasoned salt also works. Whatever seasonings you have in there is totally sufficient. What simple salt and pepper should do. And it's going to take it and just gently sprinkle some on the inside. Finger's a little sticky, but that's okay. And then I'm going to flip it and do the same on the outside of the breast. Just gentle portion of salt and pepper. Okay. Now, since we have that done, we're going to now stuff the chicken. And you're just going to stuff it with the spinach, the sun-dried tomatoes, and the mozzarella cheese. First, you want to get your mozzarella cheese on first as the base. I've taken sliced mozzarella cheese and cutting them in half because since I have a smaller chicken breast, I didn't want to have the cheese spilling out of it and then makes a mess in the pan. I'm just going to take 2 semicircles of the mozzarella cheese and place them on the inside of the chicken. And it's a thick piece of cheese. Let's give that a cut. There we go. Don't want it to be too ooey gooey, right? And we're going to take that. Next, we're going to take our spinach. Now, like I said, you're going to need about a cup of spinach, but since I have smaller breasts, I'm definitely not going to need all of it. And you're just going to put a few leaves on the inside of the breast, like you would do like a sandwich or something. Just take a generous portion of spinach and lay that on top of the cheese. And always remember, when handling chicken, always keep your hands clean and sanitized because chicken does tend to carry bacteria. So a lot of these things that I'm touching, I'm going to discard after its use because I'm not going to reuse them again, just for safety and sanitary purposes. But just remember, when you're at home, always remember to clean your surfaces and wash your hands because you don't want people to get sick. Next, we're going to take our sun-dried tomatoes and olive oil. You can find this in any grocery store. They do sell them in the oil. They do also sell them outside the oil. It's preferable to use the one in the oil just because it's softer and it has less of a chew to it. And plus, these also add flavor because that oil is going to then incorporate itself into the chicken. So just a nice amount, I want to say about a good tablespoon each of sun-dried tomato on the inside of the chicken breast. And if some of that oil gets on the chicken, that's totally fine. That's going to enhance the flavor when it starts the cooking process. Okay, and this is what it should look like prior to stuffing it. Now we're going to take the other lobe, or if you had the pocket, and you're just going to fold it over or just kind of pat it down. And we're going to do that for each one. And I'll show you how to seal it. Now, when it comes to sealing it, you just want to have toothpicks or anything of that nature, and you're going to put the toothpicks in the chicken breast to hold it together. Because at this point now, since we have it stuffed, we're going to season it some more, add a little oil to it, and start our searing process. So I'm just going to put 2 toothpicks kind of at an angle because I want it to lay flat in the pan, as flat as possible. I think 1 toothpick should be sufficient enough. I just want to make sure it stays closed because I will have to sear it and flip it, and the last thing I want is for all of my stuffing to fall out. Okay? All right, so this is what it should look like. Now we're going to take this and transfer it to our pan, and we're going to start the searing process. So I'm going to get my pan hot and ready. I'm going to turn it up to a good medium low, depending on what your stove or your burner looks like. Before we do that, I also got to remember, I'm going to take our olive oil and just put a little oil in the pan, just because this will help the searing process. Okay, I'm gonna give that a moment, about 30 seconds or so, to start heating up. You want to do this before it starts smoking, because the smoking, it'll be too hot once that happens. Okay, let's give it a moment, let our pan get warm. Okay, now I'm going to take our chicken breast and we're going to put it right onto the pan. Now we're going to sear it. When it comes to searing, you have to make sure your pan is nice and hot and oiled. And when it comes to searing, you don't want to move it. You want to let it sit for 2 to 5 minutes, depending on the type of color that you're looking for. We're not sauteing, we're not stirring, we're going to let it sit. That's the key importance of searing, because letting it sit and just leaving it alone is going to give you that color and that texture that you're looking for. So while that's searing, I'm going to prepare for the next step, and we're going to make our garlicky cream sauce for this chicken. So it's been about, I want to say about a minute or two. I'm going to go ahead and flip it, and we're going to sear our other side. Get your tongs, because that's going to make it a lot easier. Cheese fell out. That's exactly what I didn't want to happen. Okay. So unfortunately, this one, it did fall apart, but it's okay. We're just going to take our toothpick out and try to resituate it to where it doesn't fall out again. This happens in cooking all the time. There's nothing wrong with it. You just have to make adjustments where necessary. Now, I'm just going to put this right back into our pan. As you can see, some of the cheese is starting to melt. And the spinach is starting to wilt a little bit. All right, we're gonna let that be. Now, we're gonna start making our garlicky cream sauce for our chicken. So let's push this up a little bit so we have a spot to mix everything. Now, we're gonna take our heavy cream, put that in the bowl. Our chicken broth, put that in the bowl as well. Garlic powder, throw that in there. Our Italian seasoning, throw that in there. And we're just going to whisk all that together. Until everything is incorporated, because this is going to be the base of our chicken. It's going to add levels of flavor to everything that we have. We're going to set that to the side, because now what's going to happen, we're going to take our seared chicken, transfer that to a pan, and we're going to add our creamy garlic sauce to it. I'm going to give that another moment, allow the chicken to gain some color. I'm going to give it one more flip. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds. And once that's finished, like I said, we're going to transfer it to our pan, add our sauce, and then we're going to finish it in the oven. Okay, I think this chicken looks good. So now we're going to take this and transfer it to our pan, and we're going to add our cream sauce to this pan, because what we want to do, we want to get all the flavors from this and add the rest of it to our chicken. So, I'm gonna take this chicken, place it in a pan, give it an equal amount of spacing. And you can see that cheese. Okay. I'm gonna take the sun-dried tomato that fell and the cheese that fell. We're going to add it to it because it's only going to enhance the flavor of our chicken. We're going to put this back on, and we're going to add our heavy cream mixture that we made. One thing I did forget to add, cannot forget the Parmesan cheese. That is very essential. So we got to add the Parmesan cheese to our cream mixture because that's going to definitely give it some cheesiness that we're looking for. So once that's mixed up, we're going to go ahead and add this right back to our pan just to warm it up. We're going to let that get to a simmer. And once that simmers, we're going to add that back to our chicken. I want to scrape all of this because you see a lot of the seasoning and cheese is still in the bowl. I definitely want to get that into the pan. I'm going to turn this up just a little bit. And I'm going to scrape the pan just a little because I want to get all that seasoning and things that was on the bottom of the pan into the sauce itself. If you were here, you could smell it, the garlic and the cream and the cheese. It smells amazing. While that's simmering, we're just going to add a little additional Italian seasoning to the chicken just on the outside of it while it's baking. It's a little Italian seasoning, and this is a mixture of, thyme, oregano, basil, rosemary, things of that nature. And if you don't have Italian seasoning, if you have thyme, oregano, basil, any things of that nature, you can also substitute with those things as well. Okay. As you can see, we're getting a good bubble, a good simmer on that cream sauce. I'm gonna turn up just a tad bit more because I'm very eager to get this in the oven because it smells amazing. Go ahead and give it another scrape just to make sure it doesn't burn. You always got to remember when we're simmering or sauteing and things like that, always remember to scrape the pans because you don't want it to burn. And that burnt flavor will get into the food. Plus, since we have cheese in this, the cheese you also want to always remember to stir too, because that will stick to the bottom and burn as well. And you want to get this until everything is warm, all the cheese has melted and incorporated everything into the cream. I think we're at a good point. Now I'm going to take this, and we're not going to put this directly on top of the chicken. You just want to put this on the bottom of the pan around the chicken. So that even if you just put it in the middle, eventually it'll just spread itself out around the chicken. And remember, always scrape your pans. If you see all of that that's sticking to the bottom, you want that in your chicken. Put that over there. And this is what it should look like prior to going in the oven. Just kind of get the sauce to go around. And next, we're going to put this in the oven, a preheated oven on 375 degrees for 20 minutes. Hello, now since our 20 minutes is up, we're going to now take it out of our oven and we're going to start the plating. So we got our nice oven mitt. Take this right out the oven. Oh yeah. Now as you can see, the cheese has melted. Our spinach has wilted ever so nicely. Our sauce has thickened because a lot of the water has been cooked out. Sun-dried tomatoes look amazing. Goodness, let's take our toothpick out. We can't forget the toothpick. You don't want people to bite into that. And let's go ahead and drizzle some of this good sauce on the chicken. There we go. There we go. And there we have it, Tuscan chicken. Easy, simple, and appropriate for a nice, wonderful night with your significant other. My name is Jeremy Edwards, and this has been another episode of Look Who's Cooking, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.